Like Snort. Pando, kill the beat.
I don't know who, somebody need to hear this. Y'all speak Hebrew, that's Yiddish. How the fuck you try to label us anti-Semitic? We the Israelites, blacks, native Hispanics. The Germans get locked up for the Holocaust. Meanwhile, black people still up in the Holocaust. 100 million of us died in the transatlantic. 6 million died. Y'all want the world to never forget it. You can never be a Jew. You are Ashkenaz. This ain't a star dum-dum. A gun that would die. Yeah, Yeezy told the truth and got ostracized. Not one person in the Bible had on a yarmulke. We were slaves in America like we was in Egypt. Y'all don't even fit the curses in the Torah neither. Y'all was blind to the truth. I had to make it clear how Jerusalem, your land, your people came from Europe. That was 1947. Your menorah got 9 sticks. It's really only 7. Yeah, it's us against the world. Armageddon. This what happened when you inherit lies from your ancestors. Y'all the synagogue of Satan with them black hats. Your whole nation sitting ducks, Aflacs, bunch of thieves and culture vultures ain't nothing kosher. To tell the truth, you vagabonds don't have a culture. Macedonia, Alexander and Philip, you a convert, so tell me, how the fuck is you Israel? That don't make you the people just cause you live there. Why my people can't hate your people like y'all hate Hitler? All the prophets was black and was called nigga. Y'all don't even fit the description that's in the scriptures. Abraham, all the way down to Jacob, we the real Jews. Y'all don't study Christ, y'all follow the Talmud. Keep it real, yeah, let's keep it real. Cold hard truth, it give you chills. Say y'all Jewish cause y'all ain't really them. About to do them like Hammond, this the Feast of Purim. You BK undefeated, this an easy win. We was born fighting, y'all the evil twin. Jacob took hold of his heel, then out came his little red bastard, they kosher deals. It's only 12 tribes, y'all trying to make it 13. Esau despised his birthright, the Lord cursed him. He ain't the devil, who is? I'm still searching. Ask your rabbi, why he give them babies herpes? I don't know what's worse, that or you claiming that you a Maccabee. I'm about to cancel, everybody trying to cancel ye. I ain't afraid to speak, this what I do. They riding to the core, I'm just judging them by their fruit. Cause they ain't suffering curses. If I was carnal, I promise I'd punch you in person. I know this an uncomfortable subject. They making millions off our culture and black people suffering from it. Yeah, they don't believe in Christ. They the Antichrist. Make a living off of niggas. They're a parasite. I ain't afraid to tell the truth. Niggas terrified. I'm about to go DEFCON 4. I ain't satisfied.
That is proof. That is absolute proof that they know we are the real Jews. That's absolute proof. Now you got the records. Go find me a white Jew on any archaeology in Egypt anywhere. You will never find a piece of archaeology with white people as slaves in Egypt. So don't tell me that they were slaves and it's their identity, and they know it. The Lord knows the blasphemy of you so-called white people that say you are Jews and you are not Jews. You are not the people of the law. You are not God's chosen people. God's chosen people are living in the ghettos of America. God's chosen people are in poverty and depression in the streets of America. God's chosen people are walking around in America with no identity. That's where God's chosen people are.
I got you. Let it rap real quick. Look. See the eyes. It's time to vote God. My God, a real nigga. Cause he wasn't no flaw. Posted on the corner like a watchdog. Family secure, got that shotty in the closet by the mob ball. Fuck what they heard, but tell them it's all true. Be cautious, that foundation voltage to fall through. They gon' fall. Look, I keep this shit 50 times 2. Ain't no more heart in this game, I'm John Q. Colder than the avalanche, way above average. Fierce taste sweet, told him make me an apple crisp. Left us in the valley full of bones, this where hope found. Child become a man, dark sands get broke down. Riding through Evanston with Mark Quad. Telling me how them crackers turn his childhood to a ghost town. Poker stop there, I lay that game down. I feel his pain cause nothing is the same now. Never like shine like heaven through a rain cloud. Glock have a fit like my child, no pants. Try to warn them niggas we bear arms like tarantulas. Them other niggas rap, I make anthems. I really seen profits under this banner. Made my enemies bow down on camera. Told my design I wanted black and white like a panda. I'm better than that nigga that sunk dirty Diana. Look, I move like a Brazilian, precious cargo, spirit Asian, but I got a new semi-auto. Wave that bitch around like where's Wardo. Sleep if they won't, I cut through they Z's like I'm Zorro. Pay me for his name, so I gotta keep that steel clutch. Trust me, I'm not what you think. I squeeze till it click like Dorothy when the heels touch. The world got me dumb, I don't feel much. Round with Yara, just left the state bridge. Looking for a bitch better than Baby's kid. Remember, I dropped Quiet Storm. I've been gone ever since. Still in the field, fuck them niggas on the fence, yeah.
What it do? What it do? What it do? You know. Cult leader. Yeah. We speak the truth, but we a cult leader. Yeah. Well, bitch, then I'm a cult leader. Yeah. Well, bitch, then I'm a cult leader. Yeah.
It's Kool-Aid, a nigga that sipped the Kool-Aid. That LaFrog, single barrel and goose. Got the coke going up on a Tuesday. Roast the false prophet like a gourmet souffle. Cause me don't say spirit gun like you skate. Nigga might run up in that black face like Gucci. Boycott a cracker, kill your favorite rapper. Cause I run with G's like a Green Bay Packer. I chop a Christian like a new machete. When you religionist, they look at you like R. Kelly. Still these women wanna do me like I'm Akinelli. West Coast sisters love me like a Machiavelli. Make these crackers lick the dust off my boots. We want no cowards in our camp and we ain't taking recruits. My crew the livest, y'all suckers is the jobbers. Niggas run their lips but they dance, y'all wouldn't try us. Nah, I ain't the same cat who used to break laws. They just rather see me as the same cause. Some rather remain lost. My brain washed with these stained thoughts. I be repping for my niggas riding for the same cause. Cult leader. Yeah. Well, bitch, then I'm a cult leader. Yeah. Better ask somebody, bitch.
Cult leader. Yeah. We speak the truth, but we a cult leader. Yeah. Well, bitch, and I'm a cult leader. Yeah. Well, bitch, and I'm a cult leader. Yeah.
That fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, boy, I'm sick and I'm tired. Fuck that fucking job, all that bitching and crying. And I'm saying, fuck that fucking job, nigga. Fuck that fucking job, bitch. Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, bitch, I done had enough. Fuck that fucking job, I'm watching everybody work. Fuck that fucking job, that little pay by the hour. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, my back hurting, I'm hungry. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, nigga, on soul. Yeah, call the 22, get this money, go home. Yeah, all these people so, and all these bitches, they messy. First day I came in, I bossed up on the bosses. And they promise nigga this, promise nigga that. Want my ass to work and bring that paper back. Sharp, where you been? I been taking the shit. Knowing damn well that I don't fucking sleep. Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, boy, I'm sick and I'm tired. Fuck that fucking job, all that bitching and crying. And I'm saying, fuck that fucking job, nigga. Fuck that fucking job, bitch.
job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, me and bro, we just posted. Look him in the eye, shake my head disappointed. We gotta visualize, summarize, execute. All these people drop like fly, why the fuck we still here? Man, fuck that fucking job, when I pull up, I hate it. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, that's on all of their faces. Fuck that fucking job, man, I'm
Shalom Israel, we are the ISUPK out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. We've been teaching the truth about the Bible since 1969, that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we belong to the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. All right. Tonight, we will be streaming from Trinidad here for just about 1 hour. All right. And then we would skip over to DC, where we would join Captain Mashak straight out of DC for the Wednesday night class. Right. Before we get into tonight, the ISUPK Trinidad and Tobago has classes from Monday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Tuesdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On a Wednesday, we usually stream this 1 hour period here until 8 p.m., right, locally here in Trinidad, and then we will switch over to the DC class, right, with Captain Mashak, right. Also on a Thursday, we have the radio show on 91.9 FM with Priest and Officer Swapiala and Priest and Officer Makwayak, right. It's an interactive show. You could tune in. Salakia. You could tune in and you could go ask your questions, right, and get them answered live, right. It's a live radio show broadcasting all through the island here in Trinidad and Tobago, all right. So you could tune in to Officer Swapiala and Officer Matt Kwayak on a Thursday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., right. There's a 1 hour radio show, highly interactive. You could call in or you could text in your questions through the chat, right. It also streams on the Trinidad and Tobago page. So you could text your questions through the chat and you can have them answered during the show. All right. Also on a Saturday, we have a Sabbath service at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on a Saturday, right? With Priest and Officer Yakad, he usually conducts the Sabbath service, right? Also, you will see other brothers from time to time also in the Sabbath service as well, right? They could come down to the Sabbath service, join in with us, break bread together with us, right? And they could have your questions also answered, and you could learn about the history of Israel. When we say Israel, we're talking about the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. You can learn about your history, your identity, and your culture. Salakia. Right? So without further ado, right, just as you will see the topic on the screen, right? Trinidad and Tobago, New Year, Cries of Despair, right? Right? This is what we would usually call, or what the world would call, Old Year's Night, right? And at midnight, they would usually bring in the New Year with different type of celebrations, right? According to the Bible, according to Scripture. So, the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is not supposed to be celebrating New Year's Day, right? That is a pagan holiday according to the Scriptures, right? We have our own feast days, our own high holidays, right? And the New Year's Day is not celebrated in the Bible, and it's not for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man to do so, right? The Lord said the feast days of this world, of this earth, right, is noised, right? Paraphrasing, right? These high holidays, right? When you look back at the history of them, especially New Year's Day, you would see that they are linked to pagan gods from the past, right? So all your Easter and your Valentine's Day, right? Thanksgiving, right? We just came out of Christmas. All these things are linked, right? When you look at the history, this is documented history. You could go and look at, right? You could tune into the ISUPK classes and you could learn more about it, right? All these all these holidays of this earth are linked to pagan customs, right, of past empires that was upon the face of the earth, right, with New Year's Day being one, right. So during the New Year's Day celebration, a lot of people don't know, it stems back from ancient time, right? They celebrated the god Janus, right, which was the god of doorways or the god of transition or new beginnings, right? And this Salakia came out of the Roman Empire, right? It was known as a two-faced god, right? I will see if I could pull it up here. The god quickly, the god Janus, right? Which was a pagan god, and this came out of the Roman Empire, right? It was a two-faced god. It had two faces facing opposite directions, right? And they termed it as seeing the future and the past, right? Or the beginning or ends, right? See if I find an image here quickly, right? It was also on coins as well, right? Roman coins. Right, so it was also on Roman coins, and you would see different types of images, right? So as we can see it on the screen here, right? This is what the god Janus would look like, right? And if you click, you will see Janus, right? The god of beginnings, as they had it labeled, right? This is an ancient Roman god, a pagan god, right? That the Romans would serve, right? And it also talk about they use Janus, right, to bring in the new year, right? Right, they say it might, the article says here, it might surprise you to know that the new year didn't always start in January, right? The original calendar, an early Roman calendar, actually started in March, right? So between March and April is usually the correct time for the new year, which brings in the spring, right? All this, right, the Most High instituted, right? And as time rolled on and it reached the Roman Empire saw it fit to change the beginning of times, right? And many of these empires followed after, right? But it would be the beginning of the new year supposed to be between the time of spring, right? And the Roman Empire under, I believe it was, if I read through here quickly, right? Right, it was brought in by Pompilius, right, in around 700 BC, right? He added January and February to the calendar, and he placed January at the beginning, specifically because of Janus believing that the god of beginnings should preside over the start of the year, right? So they replace place these months and place the beginning of the year at January, right? But the beginning of the year is not in the dead of winter, right? The beginning of the year is supposed to be during the springtime, which is between March and April, right? And that is usually when the ISUPK under command in Jenihana, that is when we keep our Passover, and that is when we recognize the beginning of the new year, when new things are being sprouted out the earth, right? And new flowers are being formed, and you're coming out of the dead of winter, right? Unlike these Roman empires, and empires that celebrate the new year, including Babylon the Great today, or what we know as America, now celebrating New Year in January, right? This is our next image, right? A lot of image, but they usually have the two faces facing the opposite direction, right? Representing the god Janus, right? And when you go out and you celebrate the new year, you understand? Unknowingly, you're celebrating the god Janus, right? You partaking in a pagan custom that has been going on for thousands of years, right? Right, and is no fault of ours, but is the fault of our religious leaders, right? All these religions, Christianity, Egyptology, Islam, and all these taught us that the beginning of the year is in January, when that is not true, right? Just as we said before, the beginning of the year is between March and April, when springtime is about, right? And we could see tonight as we going down through Oliels, right? As they say, heading to the new year, as they proclaim to be tomorrow, right? They have the whole entire world celebrating a pagan festival. And that's when everybody waiting for that big ball to drop on Times Square tonight, right? And in Australia on the Sydney Bridge and all the different areas in the world, right? So like, yeah, even in China, celebrating this, right? Although the Chinese have their New Year's, they are still a section of the population participating in this. This serves and celebrates a pagan god, a god of pagan origin. Understand? And the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, the Lord said for us, right, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 2, that we should not learn the ways of the heathen. Understand? Right? So we were not supposed to follow the customs and traditions that these empires set up on the face of the earth. You understand? You have everybody rushing for all years, they sail, right? And these type of things. These are things many of the big businesses in America and the Western society capitalize on. That is what they call it, capitalism. You understand? They build their business model to squeeze the pockets of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. And when we look locally here in Trinidad, you understand, right during the Christmas season, straight into the New Year, right? The leaders in Trinidad and Tobago saw it fit, understand, to raise all or the majority of fines and taxes in the country, right? And about 80% of them actually doubled, right? Some reached the point where it was even raised at 1,000%. Plus it get ridiculous, right? So many of the fines in Trinidad and Tobago and taxes has gone up, right? And they chose to do it during the Christmas into the New Year season because they know that is when a lot of people would be distracted, right? A lot of people would be focused on other things rather than focusing on the things that would affect them most in their life. And when they woke up the next morning, I believe it was, they did it like Christmas Eve night. When the population of Trinidad and Tobago rose next morning, they realized that all the traffic fines were raised double. And as I say, some even went up to 1,000%, right? They went from 1,000 to 10,000. It became highly ridiculous, right? And then as the time go along and we rolled through the days, coming into the new year, more fines were increased. So they increased all the custom duties. So anything imported into Trinidad and Tobago, anything with the increased online tax. So if you bought anything online, if we buy anything outside from let me say the US or China or anything, we would pay added or double tax on it before we could have access to the product, right? And that is before you actually pay the price for the product as well, right? So most times it wouldn't be worth it to purchase anything outside. So you can see the bondage and the burden coming down on the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. And many people who run SMEs or as they call it, small and micro enterprises or small businesses in Trinidad are facing the brunt because they depend on this method of importing goods to sustain their businesses. And a lot of Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian people are now affected. Understand? Even to the point today, right? I believe it's the notice that they were doubling the NS, which is like a pension fund in Trinidad. And it would work and they would deduct a certain part of your salary, right? And then at an older age, when you retire, you would be able to benefit from this pension fund, right? Well, even the tax on that has been raised, right? And the age limit, understand, has been taken to a new height on it as well. Many people not even living to that age where they could retire and have a pension. You understand? So, think a life in Trinidad is becoming a lot more harder by the day. Understand? And the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man need to take notice and need to understand that when we under the rule of the heathen, this is what happens. This is what the Lord was warning us about. Understand? This is what the Lord was warning the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man about. Understand? That these laws, these statutes, and these commandments, if Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man don't come together as a nation, understand? Right? And start to follow and do the things and apply the laws and the commandments, the things the Lord command, right? In these scriptures, you would fall under the hand of the heathen, and the burden will be very heavy. The burden will be very difficult because you wouldn't have nobody to look out for you or to be that brother or that sister to you, understand, in your time of need. And life will become very difficult, understand. I remember in early times, like our parents before, you would have things like a susu, right? We call it a susu in Trinidad, where everybody would put up a certain amount of money, understand, and would give it to one person, and that person would repay it back as a loan, and it would go round according to if it have 9 people in this susu or in this arrangement, understand, everybody would be able to access this big pool of money at a certain point in time, and you would have time to pay it back. And this would run flawless, understand, without any interest payment, understand, or and nobody was stealing the money and all these kind of things, understand. And this is just some of the little things Black people was doing on their own, right? Until they realized, hey, these people running susu, and these susu started to get big. Some of them susu began to become 200, 300,000. These began to become large until the bank institute a law where they now tax any arrangement like that when it happens. Understand? And showing you that how they keep bringing up these taxes to ensure that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man remains low or in the bottom of society, right? So just have a quick article here that we could read, right? And it says here, right? And it says governments. Let me share the screen quickly. All right? It says government's new penalty fine taxes to kick in from January 1st, right? And for Salakia, for everyone who wants to celebrate New Year's, right? That is a New Year's gift. A New Year's gift is fines and penalties and taxes. And that is because you live in the Western society. You live under capitalism. You live under the influence of Babylon the Great. Right? The scripture say all nations have drunk of the wine, drunk of the wine, right? And it's talking about Babylon the Great of America. The influence of America has stretched out throughout this entire region and the world, right? And now it is being heavily displayed going into 2026, right? As they call it. And now Trinidad and Tobago is facing hefty fines and penalties from January 1st, right? So after midnight tonight, all these taxes will be kicking in Trinidad, right? And this is just a little tease of the article here, right? It says a series of government notices published on Christmas Day will see changes to traffic fines, custom duties, vehicle import rules, and registration fees taking effect on January 1st, 2026. Right? So all the different fines, custom duties, and import rules have changed, and all the fees has either been doubled or tripled. Right? It says births and deaths Registration fees rise. Fees for registering birth and death increase. Registration for a child over 3 months, but under 12 months, right, will cost $40, while registration of a child over 12 months with written authority from the Registrar General will range from $100 to $150, right? So if you do register a child within a certain time, right, the fees begin to rise exorbitantly, right? And jump from $40 to $100 to $150, right? So they have a range. It says fees include $20 for declaring the birth in another district, $30 for and the daily breakdown of the fees, and all the breakdown of the fees and what you're paying for, right? Normally, this would be a very small fee because it would cost it would cost a parent actually next to nothing. And now, because the government want to raise revenue, right? Because the government in Trinidad and Tobago, as if many wouldn't know, is at a serious shortfall for cash, right? Or for revenue, all right? And the USA Venezuela conflict had a lot to deal with it, right? We wouldn't be at a significant shortfall as the Trinidad and Tobago previous government was making an arrangement where we would be able to refine and process the Venezuelan gas, and we would be able to sell it, and we would be able to maintain our economic status in Trinidad. But during the fallout with the United States and Venezuela and Trinidad getting a new government, right? And this government being a hidden government or government of the other nations, they decided to cut all ties with Venezuela and decide to go it on their own. And as a result, Trinidad had a massive shortfall in revenue, and the government is trying to raise this revenue through taxing the population. Understand? And by raising every tax that they could find, even if it is small, just as the birth and death, they decide to tax everything in order to recoup or recover this revenue, right? It also says here, the new rules also targets imports, right? Vehicle imports, right? So any vehicle coming into Trinidad and Tobago imported, right, will fall under this rule, whether it be new or foreign use. If you could buy a used vehicle from outside, or you could buy a new brand vehicle, all these would fall under the vehicle import, right? Commercial compressed natural gas (CNG) vehicles with engines up to 1500 cc, both new and used, will receive full exemption from custom duty, provided used vehicles are no older than 8 years, right? No custom duty, while vehicles above that threshold will remain at the standard duty rate, right? So you have to bring in this vehicle within a specific age range. Now, the reason why this section of the vehicle imports remain with no duties is that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, the majority of us, do not import vehicles. So it will have no effect upon us, right? The most of the other nations is who import these new and foreign use vehicles, and then they would sell it on the market to the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? Very few of us do vehicle imports in Trinidad, right? Then it goes down here, Trinidad and Tobago government doubled most traffic fines under the Motor Vehicle and Traffic Road Act effective January 1st, right? All these fines are going into effect January 1st on New Year's Day, just as we was talking about the God of New Beginnings. Understand? They saw it fit to bring into effect all these fines on New Year's Day. Understand? And that is so ironic. Understand? Showing you that the heathen is placing all these new taxes and burdens on the side on the society on New Year's Day, on the day of the pagan holiday, as we would say. Understand? And many of these fines and many of these hardships are going to come on the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? If we are not careful to navigate through this time in society, right? The government doubled most traffic fines under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act effective January 1st, 2026. The changes affect more than 60 offenses, including speeding, dangerous driving, related to breaches, documentation, and other traffic violations. Under this new schedule, fines previously set at $1,000 have increased to $2,000, right? Fines at $750 have increased to $1,500, and fines of $300 jumped to $600. Those at $450 fine will go up to $900. And higher penalties have also been raised, including $2,000 fines and now $4,000 fines. So most of them, most of these fines have been doubled, right? With even one, I think one being insurance, right? For vehicles. And normally if you don't have an insurance for a vehicle, the fine was like $1,000, right? And you have to pay the fine and you have to carry in your vehicle to be insured, right? And this is public safety, right? But it also had with it a demerit point system, right? Where you would be also fine, you will also be awarded the demerit points for the infractions that you commit, right? So only when you would pay a low fine, you would have a demerit point system that will keep adding up as you commit infractions, right? And if you commit, I believe was reach about 10 points on the infractions, they would take away license and you would have to go back to driver's ed or driving school where they would retrain you to be on the road. That was the system from before. Now they have decided to scrap the system and just charge you the money, right? And just double the money and raise it high. They don't care about retraining you or carrying you back to driver's ed or anything like that. All the concern right now is just pay the money. You understand? So you could just pay wherever money come back on the road again, do the same thing again, and you will just have to pay more money. And the cycle will just continue. All right? Because all the concern about is raising revenue to try to offset the deficit budget that Trinidad and Tobago is currently running now. Right? And this is the stage that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is facing in Trinidad and Tobago right now, right? And this is why we say, you Black man, you Hispanic man, you Native Indian man, this is the time to listen and to tune into the IFPK under command in Jaliana, because these fines, right, and these charges and taxes, right, if the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is caught in the snares that the other nations try to set for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, you could find yourself in some problems. You understand? Because even some of these fines or could put you into serious burden, serious debt. You understand? Right? As the simple same one that we was talking about insurance, because many people have older cars, you understand? They struggle to get it insured because they have to go to get inspection. Understand? And they just use it to commit probably to drop their children to school, right? Just to make it through the day. Some use it to sell and peddle their goods, right? So that they could make a dollar to survive to make it through the day. And if someone is to be caught in the snare or have to pay this hefty fine, it will totally eradicate them out of the game. You understand where I'm from? Because if somebody is caught paying $10,000, right? The average salary in Trinidad, right, is probably about $300 on the base level, right? $300 for at least an 8-hour day work. Some is even on the lower end. Understand? And to pay a fine of $10,000, that would literally take you months of work. right, to repay that fine, right? And then you would not be able to manage and keep your family, right, and your children and send them to school. Life would become very difficult with just this one single fine, right? And when you add up all that to paying taxes on NIS and childbirth and all these things, you're talking about millions of dollars, right? Because even on the old system, right, with the demerit points and the lower fines, the Trinidad and Tobago government, right, with just a nation of 1.3 million people, had raised $74 million, right, within a year, right? And this was with the lower fines. This was with the fines with $40 and $1,000 and $500 and things like that, right? So imagine when it is double up now to 2,000 and 4,000 and 10,000, right? The kind of ridiculous amount of money they're looking to make, you understand? This will go into the hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Right, and some of the articles and these people speculating that they're aiming to make even a billion, right? So it is becoming very ridiculous in the society, and the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, if not careful, if not guided by the ways of the Lord, and if not um, um, taking heed to the things that the Lord say for us to do and to look out for, we could fall victim, right, and be brought under heavy burdens, just like when Pharaoh had us in Egypt. And our son, right, we find we were producing bricks too easy and too fast, right, to build the nation of or the kingdom of Egypt, and he decided to give us more burdens. You understand? And he decided to make us go and actually look for the straw to make bricks. So you had to go and look for the straw and then come back to make bricks. And when you look at the things that going on in Trinidad today, it's like that. You understand? More burdens has come upon the society, right? And many of these burdens will fall upon the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, because even just as they have the traffic fines, right, it's only the people to the lower end of the society who do not have cars in excellent condition, right? They even introduced what you call a landlord tax, where anybody who is renting property will have to pay a tax quarterly. So they will pay the tax 4 times for the year, every 3 months. And by introducing these tax, right, this is how many Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians would make money. You have a little property and you would rent a room, or you rent an apartment, and the tenants would pay rent, understand, and you would make a living from that, right? And now that also too is going to be heavily taxed as well, right? Even spirits or rum and alcohol has been sent sky high, right? With these tax initiatives, understand? So a lot of things are changing in Trinidad and Tobago. And being the ICP under Command General Hannah, we're not affiliated with any political organization, right? Or do we delve into politics? But we make the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man aware of the things that is going on in Trinidad, right? And we in the New Year's Day, right? This is a pagan holiday. The Bible says for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man that we should not keep or follow these holidays, right? Unless we fall in the trap or the snares of the enemy, right? And before we close off, just making our brothers and sisters aware that many of us like to light fireworks, right? Black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, right? You celebrating this holiday. This is an ancient pagan holiday way back from the Roman Empire, celebrating the god Janus, right? And tonight in Trinidad, there is the first snare of all these finds, which is that it is already proclaimed by the Attorney General's office that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is supposed to have a permit in order to execute these fireworks, right? So these are the type of snares that they like to issue, and they issue this warning, right? During I believe this one came out on the 26th during Boxing Day, right? When everybody busy, so nobody in know, and everybody buying up the fireworks ready to celebrate New Year's, not knowing that it could be a snare to you, right? And the fines are very stiff, hefty, and I believe some carry jail time. So Black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, Be aware, stay tuned into the ICPE under Command and General Hannah, right? Learn who you are, right? We've been teaching this truth since 1969, that you, black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, you belong to the 12 tribes of the nations of the nation of Israel. And don't forget, tomorrow is Thursday, right? At 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., 91.9 FM. We have the radio show, right? We have a radio show with Priest and Officer Makpaya and Priest and Officer Sawapia. With that, we say shalom.